The one of a kind, Rob Van Dam. How are you, Rob?
Super. Good. Super, dude. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Look, we have Triple Crown WWE champions on our show all the time. So we're practically jaded from it. But it's a real honor and pleasure to have you on the show, Rob. How you doing out there?
Dude, I'm awesome. You guys, I don't want to speak. I'm guessing you guys are making snowmen up there in Chicago. I don't know, but I was just at the dog park with my dog with my shirt off getting a tan in my shorts. So, yeah.
You didn't have to go heel on us that soon in the interview, Actually, it's raining out, so we're more kind of Rain Man here in Chicago, especially on our show, because I'm an excellent driver.
Look, I got Wapner in 15, so we gotta.
Oh, we got Wapner in 15. So tell us, Rob, and our radio listening audience, a little about yourself and your incredible life experiences in the grand sport of wrestling.
Well, listeners, I am a very amazing individual. I grew up in the area, actually, in about 3 hours from Chicago, I guess, depending on who's driving, but in Battle Creek, Michigan. Yep. And I graduated from high school in 1989, followed my dreams to be a professional wrestler, and now, 30 years later, I'm the most decorated former world champion in the industry because I've won so many championships, and I've through that fame and because I have so many fans, I've gotten all kinds of wonderful celebrity opportunities. I do movies. Yep. I do stand-up comedy, which I enjoy. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I do appearances where people just pay me to be me and get photos with me, and it's a really cool life. And I made a documentary recently, and I really wanted to share my life because I thought a lot of people would really enjoy seeing what it's like being RVD, seeing how people are so excited to see me, like, everywhere I go. It's almost like a magic power without even doing anything. I see, like, grown men become little kids and jump up and down, just like you guys did when you found out I was going to be on the show.
That's true. That's true.
I did a full lap around my apartment.
I dated myself.
So it's great to see you giving back. But the movie's called Headstrong.
Yes.
And so
and even though my intentions were, as I just explained, for the movie, it ends up being a little different because. Tom Garland, mutual friend, he's my manager in this world of doing stand-up comedy, and he said, let's bring a camera. We got a 7-day tour. Let's bring a camera on it and record a road trip. I said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Mm-hmm. But I unexpectedly showed up still feeling symptoms from a wrestling match that I had a few days before. Oh, wow. I had a concussion that hung around, and it hung around for a few days, and I was thinking it'll go away anytime. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the comedy tour, the symptoms were still there. So the documentary follows that more and then gets into the wrestling side of my life. You go back home to California and find out all about my life, my upbringing and my current situation with my amazing girlfriend, Katie Forbes. And it pretty much encompasses a big slice of my life. I'm really proud of it.
That's great. Yeah. It's great to hear. And I saw the trailer, and it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I mean, fans and non-fans alike, I think, will get something out of it because you talk about not only your budding stand-up career, but you also talk about some of the rough and tumble side of the wrestling industry, right?
I do. I share everything. I mean, people that really know me or have heard my interviews outside of, say, the wrestling persona, hopefully they catch on that I'm super genuine and I'm overly honest. And that is reflected in this documentary because I talk about things that some people say are groundbreaking, taking you into my real personal life. and you're learning as you're watching. The camera's with me as I'm learning, learning what's going on, like inside my head, and explaining what's going on with life. A lot of people that have seen the movie, whether they're wrestlers or whether they're not in the business, they have a common comment that one of their favorite parts is that they can relate to me, and they didn't know that RVD, could relate to them on personal levels and what they're going through with their life. And so they find it really inspiring to know that, hey, I'm human too. And life kicks me in the balls sometimes too.
Yeah.
I watched this a few days ago. I think, Ross, you saw it too. I was taken aback. There's a lot of archival footage of just how many headshots you've taken over your career. It's just over and over and over. I think at one point you go to the doctor and, they ask how many concussions you've had. You tell them hundreds, and the doctor doesn't even believe you at first.
That's a very, that's a special scene in the movie that a lot of people point out that really stuck out. Some people actually cry just because it's so honest and genuine, and I think the music adds some intensity to it too. We really worked hard on this for the better part of a couple of years, and then some when it talks to getting it accessible, via the distribution platforms. But I have had hundreds of concussions in my career, and I just thought it was part of the job before. This was before we really knew anything about the possible consequences with long-term damage from this. I just thought that if I was tough enough to take it, then at least I found an outlet to show it, in pro wrestling. But after learning what I learned by making this movie, I don't think it's such a good idea for people to be taking those unnecessary shots to the head.
Well, we've got Ross Berman here from WrestleZone.com. Ross, do you have any questions for RVD?
Yeah, Rob, you got a match coming up on April 4th against the Lucha Brothers, Ray Phoenix, Pentagon Jr. It's being billed as an Extreme Dream match. Is there anyone kind of left that you have like a dream of wrestling, like someone that if you could get in the ring with, you could then just call it?
That's a very common question, but my answer is always the same. I don't have a fantasy pick, and I'm really all about the business. I've been saying that for a long time, and what I mean by that is I follow the money, and that's why you might be seeing a little more of me in Impact following this April 4th match. I'm really looking forward to this match at WrestleCon in New York. Sabu and I haven't teamed in a long time. We probably only tag teamed once in the last 10 years or more, probably, and that was at a WrestleCon. We wrestled the Hardy Boys when WrestleMania was out in California. Even that might have been 5 years ago, but it was a long 5 years ago, so it seems like it. So I'm looking forward to teaming with Sabu, and I'm feeling like I might have to be like the big brother in there, depending on how he's feeling, how his body's feeling. But hey, I'm used to carrying companies on my shoulders. No big deal.
Very true. Now, you talked about following the money. Now that recreational marijuana is pretty much, it's being legalized everywhere. Hey, it's Rob Van Dam. We have to ask this question. We've already seen people like Sean Morley, the former Val Venus, get into the dispensary business. Is there any talk of getting Rob Van Dam involved in some of that legal weed money?
There is talk of it. I always have my hands in 1,000 different projects, it seems like. And yeah, I'm talking with some people. I don't know if we should. Anyway, like in Las Vegas, they're voting soon to license lounges. Right now, you can get marijuana anywhere in Vegas. Like, they're the loudest and proudest city that I've seen. Billboards, the shops, they're like every few feet, everywhere. But you can't smoke it anywhere except for home. So the tourists are really disappointed when the hotels knock on their door and say, "Hey, you can't smoke here." So they're going to be licensing. It's like a council vote, but I'm sure it'll go through to where they'll allow lounges. And that's among some of the other talk that I've been talking with is possibility of doing something in that area.
Nice. Right on. Well, you could do RVD's CBD could be your like
There you
brand.
go.
That's great.
Yeah, actually, I'd be really interested in that too, man. Send the CBD companies my way. That's like the new miracle accepted drug. Like you can get it. It's at all the gas stations.
Totally.
You know?
It's at the liquor store down the street from me.
Darren, you got a question?
A comment and then a question. I have a friend who's a playmate, Playboy playmate, who is now doing the CBD. Doing that.
Photos or it didn't happen.
But here's the question. I got this from somebody who's listening in. What was your favorite ECW match of all time?
Well, I mean, can we count the John Cena match? I mean, that's it.
Absolutely.
That was an ECW match. That was definitely my crowning moment, and it was a great match, but also everything that was going into it. You know, I was fighting for everything I believed in. The crowd had the same values, and I was fighting against everything, you know, that WWE stood for that was inconsistent with ECW values. And because of that, and because I stuck to my guns and never gave that part up of my spirit, that's how that came about. That's why we brought ECW back as a third brand, and that's why I never would have been heavyweight champion if I hadn't personally changed the entire playing field in order to make that happen. I was definitely the best candidate to represent ECW, bringing it back. So I'm very proud of those accomplishments right there.
Am I wrong, or were you the one that pitched the original One Night Stand?
I did pitch it to Vince, and he accepted. He thought it was a great idea, so I stayed on him after that. Myself, Dreamer, Paul, you know, we were feeding Vince ideas. I go to him afterwards. Next time I saw him after he said it was a good idea, I gave him a big list of all the wrestlers that he had under contract that were former ECW, and he didn't even know. I said, look, you don't even have to bring anybody in. I said, look at all these guys were ECW: Chris Jericho, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. I went on and on and on. The Dudleys, and so yeah, that was something. You know, I mean, that's always been the best environment to showcase my abilities in, and so, you know, even when I had the hardcore title, like that was one of my favorite times in ECW. But and if you want to go back to the original ECW, I mean, I loved wrestling Sabu, and my matches with Jerry Lynn, of course, were outstanding.
We got Kevin Elcher Peterson here, who's a pro wrestler here on the circuit out of Chicago. Got a question for you.
Back when you were wrestling as you know, back in WCW, back in the horrible dark days, did you ever think you were going to go as far as you ended up doing with your career?
I'm sure that it really wasn't on my mind. I don't know. I mean, I was in WCW in, let's see, I went there in 92, December 92. I stayed till about May of 93. So I'm really young, really green at that time. But I was having some other wrestlers tell me that I was going to be a world champion. The wrestler, promoter, Ron Slinker, that gave me the name Rob Van Dam, he was the first one to tell me that he thought I was going to be a world champion someday. And then, you know, I heard it from a couple other people, and it was around that same time. But, you know, that was something you take with a grain of salt, like, wow, that sounds cool, but I don't think I could actually see it. And I didn't really know, even though I had dreams of just seeing how far I could get, I don't think that I had any idea that I would affect people and reach and touch and inspire people and be so appreciated, you know, like everywhere I go. Like I said, everyone's excited. I get so much love everywhere. I don't think that could have gone through my mind back then.
Right on. Well, Rob, we've got actually part of our radio team is President Trump, who's here when President Trump has a question for you.
Well, thanks a lot, brother.
Absolutely. So you said you had a concussion. Is that what happened? You had a concussion?
I did have a concussion.
But I thought wrestling was fake.
That darn president.
It must have been the fake news. No, that's cool. But you said you single-handedly saved wrestling. And I believe it because, you know, what a coincidence. I single-handedly saved this country by body slamming Hillary Clinton after she gave chin music to Bernie Sanders. True story.
Right up.
Happy birthday.
All right, that was President Trump, everybody. Pradeep Srivastava, you have a question for Rob Van Dam?
By the way, if I could add, in my documentary, Headstrong, I love when we're going down the highway and you see a billboard that says "Vote for Trump."
Oh, there you go.
Wonderful.
In the documentary, there's a lot of things in the documentary that stand out, as being like a moment in time. That billboard that says "Vote for Trump," and then also I have King Kong Bundy, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Bruno Sammartino all, in happy encounters, like hugging, saying hi, and being happy. And it's cool because all three of them have passed on. So there's a lot of things I'm proud of there.
That's great. Pratik, you got a question?
Yeah, hi, Rob. I'm a comedian here in Chicago, and I was just curious, now that you're doing stand-up comedy, how does the performance high of coming after a stand-up show compare to a performance high in a wrestling match, after a wrestling match?
I guess in some ways it's similar as far as, like feeling like, hey, mission accomplished, it was a good night, things like that. But it's also different in a lot of ways because stand-up is a lot easier. There's so much pressure I put on myself when I wrestle. And I don't have I don't make the matches like real easy where I don't do anything in the ring. I'm usually testing myself to some degree. That's something that I get out of the matches, and so that puts a lot of pressure. There's pressure with stand-up only if I haven't done it in a long time, because sometimes I might do say 3 shows a month, and then 6-7 months might go by before I even do a show. So I've been doing it for a long time, but not that often. I've had a few weekends where I did 5 shows in a weekend, but right now I haven't done anything since I think November, and I'm talking to different places out here, and so is Tom Garland. We got a few venues that we're talking to them about doing something regularly there on a several times a week basis. But I'm not in a hurry to do anything. I like being semi-retired. I'm the opposite of everybody that wants to keep real busy and that can't stand sitting at home. I'm the opposite. I'm a homebody, and it's a really big deal when I do leave home. And when I do leave home, I'm usually trying to get right back to it. So a lot of people can't relate to that. After I do stand-up comedy, there's pressure, by the way, on the first day, just because I'll have a ton of jokes in my head, most of them new, and then I just hope that I remember to tell them all, which I don't. I never do. And comedians say that's always the way afterwards, I wanted to say this or this or this, but then then the next day, I try to remember what I didn't say and try and talk about different stuff, and so there's not as much pressure. The first day of the tour from this movie, this comedy tour, I went up and nobody ever gives me a light to tell me it's time to go on stage.
I was going to ask if when the guy gives you the light, do you hit him with a 5-star frog splash, or how's that work?
I guess they're expecting it. Even if we talk before, and I say, okay, I'm counting on that light, they still are afraid to do it. They think they're going to insult me or something. So the first night on, I was waiting for Tom to tell me when it had been 45 minutes, and I went an hour and 20 minutes. But after that, then at least I know I have enough material to where, any day I can go out there and do 45 or 30 easily without any preparation. But afterwards, my brain is stimulated, and the next day, I'm thinking of new jokes. I'm thinking of T-shirt ideas. I'm thinking of business ideas. I'm solving problems that I've had in some of my plans for a while, and then all of a sudden I see, oh, here's how I solved that. I need to do this. I need to bring this person in or whatever. So I really enjoy that it stimulates my brain, and wrestling doesn't do that.
Right on. Well, Rob, I'm afraid that I'm going to have to respectfully give you the light for this interview. Because we're running up against our show ends in a few minutes. We got one more guest we have to get to. But let me tell you something. I mean this. I was a big wrestling fan when I was a kid. And in preparation for having you come on, I took a look at some of your top 10 closing moves. And I was stunned. I mean, you are one hell of an athlete. And, to do those moves, the Van Terminator, I mean, you've got a lot of guts, man. I can't imagine even thinking about doing some of the things that you've done in the ring, let alone pulling it off with the skill that you have. And so I tell you honestly, it's a real honor and a pleasure to have you here on the show. And at any point, any time you want to come back on or come through here, Keegan Buckingham will get you booked at a roadhouse or whatever to do your comedy bit.
That's right.
But it's a real pleasure, real honor to have you, and I wish you all the best with Headstrong. Is there a website or anything that we can send people to check it out?
Yeah, HeadstrongRVD.com is a safe one to go to, and then you'll see the info there on where you can access the movie Headstrong, which is available now on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Vudu. And you can always keep up with RVD at The Real RVD on all my social media.
Right on. Rob,
all right.
A real pleasure. I mean that. And more power to you. Keep fighting the good fight. You're a courageous and powerful man, and I'm really glad to have had the time to talk with you.
Thank you very much, brother.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Right
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you.
All righty.
Rob
Rob
Van
Van
Dam,
Dam, ladies and gentlemen.